On the 15th of December 2024 at 1300 hours and 24 minutes GMT BST, the questioner asks the following question: will I get the job that I applied? The number of syllables prevalent within the questioner's speech pattern generated a number sequence of 324. According to KhemAstroMath-Horary philosophy, the number sequence of 324 generates an ascendant that is between 210 to 240 degrees absolute longitude. This translates to the tropical sign of Scorpio. This is the chart that was generated as a result. The delineational prediction is as follows: you are not going to get the job. This is due to the fact that you lack the qualifications and or experience and expertise that would be needed in order to carry out the job role in question. The company that you applied for are likely to give the job to other candidates who are also applying to the job due to them having or due to them possessing more experience and expertise within the job role itself. The 10th house, the 10th sector, any planets in the 10th, as well as the Lord of the 10th, represents the job that the questioner is applying for. Now, as we can see, Mars is in the 10th. In this case, Mars also rules, or shall I say, Mars rules the first. Mars is the Lord of the first, so therefore, Mars represents the person asking the question. As you can see, Mars is in the 10th. The Lord of the first being in the 10th shows that this person is extremely enthusiastic and eager to be able to work for the company in question. This was confirmed by the person who was asking the question. Now, Mars is in the 10th. Mars has no essential dignity in the 10th. Therefore, this person will be completely out of the questioner, will be completely out of place and out of their depth and feel like a foreigner within the job role itself due to not being able to familiarize themselves with the surroundings and or the work-related tasks at hand that need to be completed. They'll be completely out of place. Mars, the Lord of the first, representing the person asking the question, has no essential dignity in the 10th. On top of this, the 12th part of Mars is in the 12th, in detriment, and therefore the person asking the question is in a detrimental place, and they don't even know that they do not possess the skills and expertise to be able to do the job, and that the company that they're applying for have a very kind of negative opinion about employing the questioner into their company. How do we know this? Because not only is Mars in the 12th in detriment, Mars representing the person asking the question, Mars is joined to the dragon's tail. Now, in any type of chart, when you're looking at any type of competition between two parties or two people or a business deal, if the Lord of the Ascendant is with the dragon's tail, that usually means that the person asking the question will get a raw deal. They will not get what they want out of the business deal. And going for a job, applying for a job is like a business deal, if you will. So therefore, the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant, Mars, representing the person asking the question, being in the 12th, in Libra, in detriment, joined to the dragon's tail, shows that this person is not going to get what they want. They're going to get a raw deal. All right. Now, 12th part of Mars, in detriment in the 12th, in Libra, also happens to be the full of the Sun. And the Sun is the Lord of the 10th. Therefore, the Sun represents the organization that the person is applying for, and the 12th part of Mars being in Libra in the full of the Lord of the 10th shows that the organization that they're applying for does not think highly of the person asking the question and is likely to not give them anything when it comes to the job role in question. Now, Libra also being the 12th is the 11th from the place of the Lord of the Ascendant, i.e. the Sun. So the Sun, representing organization that the person is applying to, has hopes, dreams and wishes of employing someone who is suitable for the job role. Hopes, dreams and wishes correspond with the 11th sector, 11th house, and Libra is the 11th from the place of the Lord of the 10th. and therefore the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant being in the 11th from the place of the Lord of the 10th in the fall of the sun shows that another testimony that the organization that the person's applying for does not want to employ them and does not hope to employ them and has no desire to do so. Now, I mentioned that the person asking the question does not have the expertise in order to be able to carry out the job role. How do we know this? We know this because the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant is in the 12th in Libra, and thus the Lord of the 9th from the place of the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant is Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini, and Gemini is the 9th from the place of Libra, where the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant is. Now, we can see that Mercury, the Lord of the 9th from the place of the Lord, Mercury, the Lord of the 9th from the place of the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant, is in the 2nd, in detriment. So therefore, Mercury represents the expertise and qualifications and experience of the person asking the question. Being in detriment shows that they do not have any adequate expertise and or experience to be able to do the job. Now, on top of this, Mercury is also in the 2nd, in detriment, and the 2nd, radical 2nd house, 2nd sector represents the questioner's money. All right. And Mercury is also the Lord of the 2nd from the place of the 10th. So Mercury is the Lord of the 11th, which is the 2nd from the 10th. And the 2nd from the 10th represents any monies that will be paid by the organization that the person is applying to. Any monies that will be paid to the person asking the question. And the fact that the Lord of the 2nd from the 10th, Mercury, is in the radical 2nd, in detriment, shows that the organization that the person applied to, is not going to pay them anything. Is going to pay them nothing when it comes to the job role in question. A further testimony of this is the fact that the Lord of the 10th, the Sun, which represents organization that the person applied to, is also in the 2nd, joined to Mercury, who happens to be the Lord of the 2nd from the 10th. So the Sun, the organization, is looking at Mercury, i.e. the Lord of the 9th from the place of the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant. So Mercury represents the experience and qualification or expertise that the person asking the question would need in order to do the job. Being in detriment in the 2nd and joined to the Lord of the 10th, the Sun, is another testimony that the company in question is not going to pay the person who asked the question any money whatsoever as a result of them not having the expertise and experience that would be needed in order to be able to do the job. Another testimony of this is the fact that the 12th part of the Lord with the Ascendant, Mars, being in detriment in the 12th in Libra. Therefore, we look to the 9th from the place of the 12th part of the Lord the Ascendant, i.e. Gemini, and we can see that Jupiter is in Gemini. Jupiter is in the 9th from the place of the 12th part of the Lord of the Ascendant. So therefore, Jupiter also represents the qualifications and experience and level of expertise that the person asking the question would need in order to be able to do the job role in question. Now, as we can see here, Jupiter is retrograde, and thus declinational Jupiter, or decli Jupiter for short, is in the radical 9th in Cancer. The 9th represents, again, qualifications and experience and expertise that the person asking the question would need in order to be able to carry out the job. And decli Jupiter being in the 9th in Cancer is in the fall of Mars, the fall of the Lord of the Ascendant. And therefore, this shows that the person asking the question does not have the level of expertise that is actually needed to be able to do the job. All right. There's further testimonies of this. I mean, we could stop here. This blatantly shows the person is not going to get the job. There's further testimonies of this because we can see that the Lord of the Ascendant, the first part of the Lord of the Ascendant, Mars, is in the 10th, but he is also retrograde, and thus by declination declinational Mars, or Decli Mars for short, is in the 7th. In detriment. Again, so it's not looking good for the Lord of the Ascendant. It is not looking good for the questioner at all, because declinational Mars, or Decli Mars for short, is in the 7th in detriment. Now, in any chart that represents a competition, or two parties or two people going at it or competing against one another, if the Lord of the Ascendant is in the 7th, that means that the person asking the question is being dominated and completely obliterated and controlled by their competition and the person that they're going up against. Now, the 7th, any planets in the 7th, and as well as the Lord of the 7th, represents other candidates who are out also going for the job. So, the Lord of the 1st, Mars, being retrograde, and thus by declination the Lord of the 1st, Mars, Decli Mars, being in the 7th, is therefore being dominated and controlled by the competition, because declinational Mars is in detriment in the 7th, and therefore has no ability to act and or outwit the competition and other candidates who are also going for the job. Now, declinational Mars being in the 7th, thus we look from the 7th and we can see that the 9th from the place of the 7th, where declinational Mars is Capricorn, and the Lord of Capricorn is Saturn. So therefore Saturn represents the expertise and experience and skills that the person asking the question would need in order to be able to carry out the job role in question. So again, declinational Mars is in the 7th. Yes, declinational Mars, represented the person asking the question, is in the 7th in detriment, and the Lord of the 9th from the place of declinational Mars is Saturn. So Saturn would represent the expertise and experience that the person would need in order to do the job. And the first part of Mars is in the detriment of the Lord of the 9th from the place of declinational Mars. Again, the first part of Mars is in the detriment of Saturn, and Saturn is the Lord of the 9th, expertise and experience that the person needs in order to do the job, from the place of declinational Mars. That's another testimony that the person does not have what it takes. We know that the company in question is fully aware of this. How do we know? We know this because Saturn, who's the Lord of the 9th for the place of declinational Mars, is in the 5th radically. But the 12th part of Saturn is in the 10th in detriment. So therefore, the 10th representing the organization that the person is applying to, and the 12th part of Saturn, which is the Lord of the 9th for the place of declinational Mars, being in detriment in the 10th, means that the organization can see that this person has applied for the job, and they're also fully aware that this person does not have what it takes to be able to do the job. See what I mean? Now, we can see that Mars is not going to get the job. The person asking the question is not going to get the job in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We don't need to keep going and looking at all of the geometry here. Now, we can see that the Lord of the 7th, because the second part of the delineation was that they're likely to give the job to other candidates who are going for the job, who have more experience and expertise in that particular field, in order to be able, and are more likely to be able to do the job or carry out work-related tasks due to having more experience. All right. Now, the 7th, any planets in the 7th, as well as the Lord of the 7th, represents the competition, other candidates who are also going for the job. Now, we can see that here, the Lord of the 7th is Venus, and Venus happens to be in the 4th. All right. Now, the Lord of the 9th from the place of Venus is Venus herself. All right. So Venus not only represents the competition and the other candidates who are going for the job, Venus also represents the level of expertise that the other candidates who are going for the job would have. The 12th part of Venus is in the 7th. Yeah. And thus, that's another testimony that the candidates are extremely sure of themselves. They have the expertise that they need in order to be able to be in a position where they can carry out the job role in question. All right. Because Venus is the Lord of the 7th, and Venus is the Lord of the 9th for the place of the Lord of the 7th. So Venus represents the expertise that they have, and Venus also represents the candidates that are actually going for the job as well. Now, the 12th part of the Lord of the 7th is in the 7th and in the exaltation of the moon. All right. The moon happens to be the Lord of the radical 9th. The 9th, again, represents the expertise and experience that would be needed in order to be able to do the job. And the 12th part of the Lord of the 7th, Venus, is in the 7th in the exaltation of the moon, showing that they have all the expertise and experience that they actually need in order to be able to do the job role in question. Yeah. Now, there's further testimony of this due to the fact that you can see here in the 7th we have Uranus. Now, Uranus represents thinking quickly, being spontaneous, and also represents technological gadgetry that can be utilized in relation to what? Well, in this case, in relation to the job role itself. And we know this because Uranus is retrograde, and thus by declination Uranus is in the 10th in Leo. So declinational Uranus, or decli Uranus for short, is in the 10th. All right. And the first part of Uranus is in the 7th in the exaltation of the moon. And further testimony of this is that the 12th part of Uranus is in the 4th, joined with Venus, who happens to be the Lord of the 7th. You see? Can you see all of that? Can you see it? Now, further testimony of the fact that the candidates that are also going for the job, who are the competition of the person who asked the question, have more experience and expertise when it comes to doing the job and are more likely to be considered for the job role in question. Further testimony of this being the case is the fact that the 7th is Taurus, yeah, and therefore the 9th from Taurus is Capricorn. The 9th represented the experience that the person would need, that would be needed in order to be able to do the job. The Lord of the 9th for the place of the 7th is Saturn, and Saturn happens to be in the exaltation of the Lord of the 7th. Saturn represents the expertise and experience that is needed to do the job, because Saturn is the Lord of the 9th for the place of the 7th, and Saturn is in the exaltation of Venus, who happens to be the Lord of the 7th. So therefore, the other candidates who are going for the job are more likely to get the job. However, these other candidates are likely to turn down the job offer as a result of wanting to be paid more and not being happy with the contractual conditions that they would have to agree to. How do we know this? How do we know? We know this because the 12th part of the Lord of the 10th, the 12th part of the Sun, is in the 11th, Virgo. Hopes, dreams, and wishes. Yeah, Virgo represents contracts and paperwork, and Virgo is also the fall of Venus, who happens to be the Lord of the 7th. I'm gonna stop right here. All right. Oh, let me add a little bit more. Yeah. Now, the Lord of the place of the 12th part of the Lord of the 10th, i.e., the 12th part of the Sun, the Lord of the place of the 12th part of the Sun is Mercury, and Mercury happens to be the lord of the 2nd from the 7th, and Mercury in this chart is in detriment, joined with the sun. So therefore therefore the company in question is not looking to pay other candidates the amount that they would like for the job role in question, and there will be issues in terms of the contract in relation to them agreeing to carry out the job role in question. But that's not part of the question that the questioner originally had. The questioner wanted to know whether or not they will get a job. The answer is no, they will not get a job. They do not have the experience, qualifications, and or expertise to be able to do the job. They'll be out of their depth and feel like a foreigner within the job role in question, and the company that they apply to has no intention of employing them, and they are likely to receive news that they are not going to be considered for the job due to not having the level of experience and expertise that's needed. And the company is also likely to tell them and let them know that they have decided to consider other candidates who are more experienced. All right. The conclusion is as follows. The person who asked the question, the questioner, later that day, they went to their email and they opened it up, and they had an email from the company that they applied to. And the email said, "We regret to inform you that we will not be considering you for the job role in question. This is due to the fact that you do not have the level of experience and expertise and qualifications that would be needed in order to be able to carry out the job. We have decided on this occasion to consider other candidates who are much more experienced within this field and within this job role. We wish you all the best for the future." That's the conclusion. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbal Society, ancient astrologer and astronomical mathematician of the Committee of Ancient Astronomical Mathematics, courtesy the ThaBadbrey Herbal UK. Hakabanajum. Dendra.